Hello and welcome to the Legislative Report. I'm State Representative Rosemary Brown, and I'm joined with Jim Depetris, who's the General Partner of DEPG Development Associates. Jim, thank you very much for joining us today on the Legislative Report. And one of the reasons why I wanted to make sure that we did a show with you was to introduce you to the local community and the local viewers and explain how you're involved in our community, what you do, and some of the things that we are looking forward to having in our community in the future. So I appreciate your time.
Yes.
And first and foremost, tell our viewers a little bit about you.
Well, I'm a developer from King of Prussia, Pennsylvania, and I've been in commercial real estate for almost 40 years there, and mostly active in South Jersey and in the eastern Pennsylvania region. But 12 years ago, I journeyed up here to a little town called Martinsville. And ever since then, I've been very involved in the Poconos in real estate development.
And what brought you, I mean, and I think I probably know the answer to this with, you know, some of how our areas changed over the years, but what brought you from Martinsville from Philadelphia? What made you look at the area and say, you know, I'm doing things down here, you know, in South Jersey, but why Martinsville?
Well, our business is mostly working with retailers. I'm also CEO of an affiliate company called Legend Properties, and we're a retail brokerage company that deals almost exclusively with national and regional retailers. So we have a good sense, a good feel for what they look for. We came up here in 2001, to be exact, and saw that there was a change of demographics here. That once was mostly a blue-collar market had really changed with a lot of New York influence of employment, that the demographics had changed, and that there was really a shortage of retail. And I come from an area, you know, like Cherry Hill, where there's really an overabundance of retail. But here there was a shortage of it, and we had a good feel that retailers would want to be here. And that's exactly what happened in Martinsville. That because of its key intersection, we felt that where there was activity around the mall, and still is, but that other retailers were seeing a shift to Martinsville because of its regional accessibility of Route 80, Route 33, and Route 611.
Right, the ability to just get off very quickly and get on and off at 33. So, and you're right, I mean, the growth in 2001 to the area, the demographics change, and originally being from New York, I understand that influx from New York and from New Jersey as well. And I think the population here, with the amount of people that commute to New York and New Jersey just for work in general, it's nice to have the retail and the services here on the weekend and on the weekdays so that they don't have to travel even more so to have those services.
Well,
so
the ability to buy a house at a much better price than in Summit or in North Jersey, really, I think, drove the market to a lot of growth.
Right, for the influx of people moving in. So when you started that project in Martinsville, and I always like people to understand the details of when a concept comes up and when you become interested as an investor in an area, where it starts, where the process begins, sometimes how long that can take, some of the obstacles that you have to go through, and how it actually ends up being its final stage. But bring us from the beginning of that Martinsville project. And then we're going to move over in part of the district here, where I'm very happy to have you invest. But when Martinsville, 2001, you started to look up this way. Bring us through that process. Bring us through that process.
It was really then purely a vision. There was a couple horrible-looking truck stops, some old hotels.
I remember that, yes.
And an intersection that was terrible. There was you could hardly travel through it, you know, at that time. But we felt that it was going to be a key intersection, and it is a process. We just completed our last phase, and that was 12 years ago. So it takes some time. But first, we look at really the market. You know, would there be an area of interest to retailers? We got quick detection that there was. But it was this development was in Stoud Township, and we've always found it very important to have a very cooperative relationship with them, with a local municipality. We approached the supervisors there and told them what we wanted to do, and we worked hard to convince them that we felt that our site was a gateway into their township coming off of the highway. And that's something that we were very proud of, basically saying, this is coming into your town, it'll be a gateway project. And now looking back 12 years, we're very proud that we think we've succeeded in that.
Right. So the initial acceptance on saying, with the township, you need these services.
Yes.
It's something that you need to offer to the
Right.
people that live here, and this is how we can enhance the section. And Stoud Township was very good in working with you over those years. But from the
There
time...
was some things, though, that we had to do for them.
Exactly.
Which was... and it was all working closely in conjunction with the Lowe's Coal Center that was built by another developer.
Right.
One thing that we did was relocate Franz Road, which was a very dangerous intersection. And we basically rebuilt it, put a traffic light there. And also, we spent $2.5 million on Route 611, basically rebuilding over 2,000 feet of frontage along our property, which greatly led to safer traveling through that area, as well as what happened in front of the Lowe's and Kohl's. So all of that really went into making that whole intersection and that along 611 a much safer place to drive today.
Right, right. And that Lowe's and Kohl's was the first in.
Yes.
That was right. That was where the truck stop was, and then behind there, right?
Exactly.
That came in first, and then now, just to remind everybody which section we're talking about, we're talking about the section where the Sonic is, and
That was Martinsville Plaza.
the Dunkin'
yes.
Donuts and the Moe's and
Right.
all those different varieties, and you have a lot of different stores in there. And then on the other side of the street, which you just finally completed, was where Dick's Sporting Goods is, the
yes.
Ulta, the pet store, and the
And of course,
hospital
the
back
hospital,
there is
they
back there as well.
Built that for them, as well as
Right.
the Hampton Suite Hotels,
That's
which
right.
is now getting ready to open.
That's right.
And we were fortunate to control that side of the road as well for several reasons. And it's very close. As when we talk about Smithfield, the similarities are amazingly close.
When you just said that,
But,
that's what I
yes.
thought of with the two sides of the road.
But basically wanting to control the quality and also wanting to make sure that with all that money that we were spending in the off-site work, that we would be able to spread the cost over two projects, not just one.
Right, right. And so you mentioned when you were doing this project up in Martinsville, the road improvements that you were responsible for as an investor coming in and adding
Yes.
on these services and building part of this economic development is tremendous. So when you had the road structure prior to when you put in this, you were responsible, like you said, for a lot of this road improvement, which makes sense in some ways, but the dollar amount that provides to the state and to the people, I mean, there was a significant amount of funds
No
on
question,
your end
yes.
put down on this road work
Right.
as a responsibility as an investor. I think that's always important for the viewers to watch,
Yeah.
to know.
And it didn't
that are
help that
watching.
we were starting that right coming into the eye of the recession.
Right, right.
And we were very
And
fortunate
sometimes-
to be able to work through that.
Yeah, because sometimes I would say that, and I've heard this, it's several different investors looking to bring jobs and economic development, is sometimes that's not able to be worked through, and that becomes a factor of when a project looks good up to that point, but then the dollar amount and the investment on some of the road enhancements becomes so strong that as an investor, the numbers don't work.
Right.
The numbers don't work. So as much as you'd like to do it,
Yes.
you can't always do it. Yeah.
And that was very true. In fact, in Stoud, behind the mall, there was a major development that was planned there.
Right.
That very thing happened.
Right.
That the off-site improvements were so great that they couldn't, economically make it work.
Right.
But we had good leasing, and we had overall a good belief in what we were doing.
Right.
I think the other thing that we did too is, a lot of people complain, a lot of developers, about the state agencies, but we've always found that it's positive to work with them, figure out solutions. We had two major wetland mitigation permits that we obtained through the DEP
Right.
and the U.S. Army Corps. It took us almost 4 years to get those permits.
Right.
But we listened and we cooperated, and we found that by doing that, instead of fighting them, that we were able to actually work forward
together.
and get our permits.
Yeah.
Took
And
us a long time.
Well,
but
and that's
we did.
another point that I think is important to say. 4 years. 4 years of going through the processes, and
Yes.
that's a long time. As financials and things are being considered.
Yeah.
So, but I think when you look at an investor like you who's used to dealing with townships and used to dealing with state agencies, that you're responsible as far as your development.
Right.
You're coming in to make a nice product, to help a community
Right.
have the services, bring tax revenue, which is always good, especially for our school tax base, create some jobs, but you're being responsible working with the state agencies. So, 4 years waiting for a permit and working back and forth with the agencies, I think can be classified as pretty responsible.
Right. Well, and it develops a trusting relationship
as
well.
Yeah.
Which
And it's not
hopefully
easy.
lends itself to other projects that we
would do in the
wanna do
future.
here.
Yeah. And I think that's always, again, important for people to realize that these are big projects that take a great amount of time, and it's not just initial, we're going to do this, and it's going to be built in 1 year. And there's a lot of time being invested and a lot of work back and forth with the agencies.
sure.
Yeah, so we thank you for what you've done up in the
Yes.
Bartonsville area. You've offered a lot of services and
You
a
were
lot of
always
great
there for our
things. Yes,
groundbreakings
you
and
were there.
you
Right
always
by the
said,
time.
"Come,
I wasn't here in
what about my
2001 when you
town?"
started.
So-
That's right.
Yeah.
So, and that's what I've been saying to
Yeah.
you is what about the district that I represent? And some of the conversations have been that the traffic flow, because of all the services in the Bartonsville area and in the Tannersville area, that from a county perspective, that we have so much going up that way. So even with the drive-through of travel, visitors and travel, that's fine. But when you have your normal population, kind of always going to a certain section for services and for retail, you become very traffic and congested. Even with all those wonderful road improvements, we've had congestion up there. So my conversations with you have been, since I've been elected into office, can you look down this way? Can you come down to the 189th district? And when I say that, obviously for the people watching, we're talking about, the Middle Smithfield, the Delaware Water Gap, the West End area, Pike County area, and you have been a diligent listener to that, and I know you have been looking as well on your own for that. But so now the conversation brings us to the district, the 189th, where you are starting to look to invest, and I thank you for that. And my purpose of meeting with you is
You weren't going to let me forget it. That's so.
I wasn't going to. So it's going to be a great thing.
Yeah.
But I do thank you, because I know as an investor in a difficult economy still, where it's still really struggling in many ways, you are reaching out to take some investment in this area. And not only for the traffic reasons that I believe that we need to offer some things down in this section, but for the convenience for constituents that live in the district that I represent. And then also for the vibrancy and the modernization of our main corridor coming in. One of the first big exits off of Route 80 is the Marshalls Creek exit. And I think that we should have a real vibrancy there for visitors, for families, for the people that live here. And so that was another reason I thought it was really important. So we're going to take a quick break, but then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about your investment in Smithfield Township in the 189th district. And we'll be right back with a legislative report.
Did you know that on October 4th, 1911, the statues that greet visitors in front of the state capitol building in Harrisburg were dedicated to the citizens of the Commonwealth? In 1902, George Gray Bernard was commissioned to design the figures that embellish the front of the Capitol building. During the installation period, Bernard explained to the General Assembly what each sculpture symbolized. The Southern group, titled The Burden of Life, depicts the story of Adam and Eve followed by the fall of man in the forms of despair. The Northern group, titled Love and Labor, depicts male and female figures reaping fruits of labor and advances to a new Adam and Eve who gaze westward into the future. Recently, both sculptures underwent restoration to prevent further deterioration from their natural beauty. Now you know.
Welcome back to the Legislative Report. I'm State Representative Rosemary Brown, and I'm with Jim Depetris, who is the General Partner for DEPG, rolls a little bit once in a while, DEPG Development Associates. And Jim and I have been talking about his investment into Monroe County over the years, and we just got done talking about the Martinsville area. And we are now moving on to, which we're thrilled, the 189th District Smithfield Township investment that Jim is working on as well. So again, Jim, quickly bring us up. How did you get to Smithfield Township with
Well,
us?
first off, again, we follow retailers. We know what they look for, and I've been studying this area for a while. The similarities to Martinsville are amazingly close in terms of the demographics, the type of housing, also the traffic patterns that exist between Route 80 coming off of 209 as Route 611 connects to Route 80 in Martinsville. So the similarities were very close. However, I also saw that there was no retail really to think of in the Smithfield area. You have a Dairy Queen, which is one of the highest volumes in the country,
That's right?
Selling ice cream, but there's a lot of services, supermarket, other retail stores that aren't there. And I think over the years, what has shied developers away from that region was the traffic, condition of the roads. But fortunately, PennDOT a number of years ago, about 4 or 5 years ago, spent millions of dollars rebuilding the bridge at Route 80 and also doing the bypass. And I think that significantly paved the way for other things to start happening there. So actually what happened is we were looking to do a smaller project like Martinsville Plaza, where we would have small retailers up on the road enjoying good visibility and traffic flow from Route 209, which is terrific. And frankly, one day I'm at my desk, Charlie Kirkwood calls me, and who I've had not met, but I heard a lot about him and his reputation, which is all good. And he says, Jim, I've heard about you and what you did in Martinsville and heard some good things. I want to sell you the Moser Dairy Farm. And I was honored that this gentleman of such distinction would call me. And we negotiated for 3 or 4 months. And we put together a piece that not only consists of his tract, but also another local owner, Ken Barr. So we now control 90 acres of what really I think is the most strategic property in eastern Monroe County today.
Yeah, and right off the exit there.
Right off the exit.
And I'm going to refer because behind us is, and I think people are very visual. So behind us is a map. Let's just take people from Route 80. So Route 80 is right here.
Yes.
Right? So if you're getting off the Marshalls Creek exit, you're right here. And then here's the light right at Route 447. So you would make a left to go to Route 447, which would take you all the way down to where the Wendy's is for most people who are watching locally. But this is the 209 corridor. That would take you all the way out to Marshalls Creek, the village of Marshalls Creek. So I think right here is where the Dunkin' Donuts is. Am I right there?
Right here, actually,
right up there. Is it up there? So it's up here a little bit further. So point to us, Jim, where all the property is. Obviously, you have it lined up here, which is the old Moser's Dairy. So the Dunkin' Donuts is over here.
This is the Moser Dairy Farm is all this area here, Route 209. So our main entrance will come in right at a controlled traffic light, which is just to the north of where Dairy Queen is. And the overall piece is 90 acres and actually goes all the way to Route 447.
Right.
A key part of our development here is going to be a major loop road that we're building that's going to connect from Route 209 at a traffic light all the way through to another traffic light at Route 447.
Right.
And that's something that the local community has received well because at the intersection of 209 and 447, it's congested. And everyone feels that this loop road will actually alleviate some of that.
Right. Now, is that at Music Center Drive? Is that
where?
Just south of it. So just south of Music Center Drive.
Music Center Drive right there.
Yep. Will be a loop road that will go all the way over through, that will connect over to 447 right here.
Yep.
So this is it right here.
Yeah.
And it comes out up here in 447. So that really does help the congestion.
No question.
For that.
Our first phase is right here, which will be retail, commercial, anchored by a supermarket. that you see in blue there. And we'll have restaurants and bank, and hotel, and other uses that will make up really the first phase 1. And the other phase 2 will be a mixture of office and commercial. Right here, there's a couple beautiful ponds that exist that we see as using as part of the amenities for this project, as well as a 30-acre multifamily component, which we think is definitely a product that is needed in this county. There's none of it today.
Right.
And we're going to build high-end multifamily residential that we think, with people looking to downsize, as well as the commuters and people that would choose not to own, we think it's going to be a tremendous part of our development.
And pretty accessible to get on and off Route 80 for traveling reasons. So you have phase 1, a lot of stores, restaurants, and all that. Phase 2, which is the medical profession, and phase 3, which is the residential rental, which is a little bit higher end.
Actually, they could go at the same time or flip-flop in terms of time. Yeah.
Right. And the medical profession is kind of nice because this lines up with a lot of the other medical offices that are on the other side of Route 447 too. So you have that over here as well.
What our concept of our project really, and this is not just here, it's really nationally, where mixed-use developments are taking place where people are shopping, living, eating, and being entertained, all part of a main project. And the nice thing is, one could do all those things with never having to get on the major highways.
Right, right. They're very close. Now, you've worked very strongly with Smithfield Township on this as well, because it's the same thing as what you discussed before. Stoud Township was the township where you had the Martinsville property. So the local township becomes a very crucial measure as far as permitting and accepting the type of economic development that you're doing here. And obviously, again, creating revenue, creating some jobs, and again, modernizing, but a facelift. I call it a facelift to this part of the district, which I think is so important on this end, and then possibly the other end, to start to bring back the face of what we see along major roadways. And I always think it's really important that people realize, too, that we have such a beautiful rural area and so much tourism and you know, our streams and all of the great things that we have, you know, for recreation, and we still have that, and we always want to protect. We always want to protect that, but there are the major roadways where you can offer services and restaurants and things that make sense, so that you have them along the major roadways, but you're protecting, you know, the rest of the area, so that you have the beauty and quality, the quality of life that you want to have. So, but I always think that's important just to mention as a side note, because you know, this is the major, this is a major core.
Well, this will be a catalyst for other developments to happen. One good project breeds another. Just look at Martinsville again, with St. Luke's going there, and building on a 40-acre piece right next to us. So I think this will encourage other quality developments to occur. It's
contagious. It is contagious. And then as you start to see, and you want more businesses to relocate here, they start to see this facelift, and they start to say, okay, and then they look to have their manufacturing business or their business in general, and then that goes to start to create some jobs for us locally as well. So it's all a good thing. Now, and you might want to say this, you might not want to say this, but the investment that you will be making in this area, the dollar investment is huge. We're going to talk about the road work just in a second, about that loop road and the cost of that loop road. I think I'm gonna come out there and say it, about $3 million just for the loop road that will come through, which will basically at this point, depending on if we can get some assistance with this too, because we do feel it's an economic driver, the project. So, but that's the responsibility right now of you for $3 million just on the loop road, let alone on.
There'll be millions spent on the highway.
On the 209.
On the 209.
Right there with the traffic lights and the expansion.
And again, we have a very good relationship with PennDOT, and it's a trusting one back and forth. And they know that we'll do the right thing and deliver a product that they'll be, you know, happy with. But they're going to insist on a level of improvements there. But it really needs it. There's no question about it. The road, for the amount of traffic that's going through that, the road is not able to adequately handle it today.
Right, to really need it.
For that.
Right.
One thing I do want to point out is that we also control 30 acres across from the Moser Dairy Farm. And again, very similar to Bartonsville, where we
Down on
wanted.
this side of the street.
Yes,
Yep.
30 acres that, of course, is owned by the Simon Company. And at one point they were going to do an outlet mall, but they bought Tannersville and decided not to do that. So we've controlled that property for a couple of very important reasons. Again, one, we wanted to make sure that it didn't become a flea market or something that would not bring down the values that we're building. And also because we're going to spend millions of dollars on that road, and we want to spread the cost out.
Exactly.
So it is a longer phase, but it's something that will happen, and this will all complete this.
Right.
And one thing to add too, we have named this project Smithfield Gateway.
Right.
Because you're
name.
coming into the town. It will be the first major development you see, and it will be something I think everyone in the town and the travelers and the nearby communities will be proud of.
It's a great name. And the two sides of the road, like you said, is very similar to the Bartonsville project, where you had both sides of the road.
Right.
And that's always important, I think, for a township as well, because on what they are envisioning their township to look like, they have a developer that they know they can work with and trust, and they know that they're working on both sides of the street to make sure that it mimics what the
Yes.
township sees
Right.
as their vision for vibrancy and addition
Right.
as well. So I know you've worked very hard with them. And we just have a couple minutes, so before we close out, I know you're doing a few other things in the county, just giving you a quick chance,
Yes.
and actually outside the county, but also still within
Yes.
parts of my district and area. So what else do you have
we are
planned?
active. We're very proud that we're partners with the Florida family up in Tannersville, where it's about 80 acres altogether of commercial ground, and 20 acres of that, which is the site of the former Summit, we have under agreement with Pocono Medical, who is building their own new hospital located there, and we'll have about 40,000 feet of retail and office alongside of them. We have two other phases, one of which we hope to do upscale residential again, with all the new employment that's going up there. Some of those people are going to need a place to live. They don't want to buy right away. So we're going to do a similar product. And also more retail and restaurants and a hotel that will be also part of that development. And then also in Pike County, we're doing a new project with a food market on 739 that we're being well received there, something that's very much needed in Dingman's Township.
Exactly. And I've heard that for many years, that they've
Yes,
have
been
requested
talked
that, as
about,
compared to
but-
going straight to Milford or coming down to the Monroe County
Yes,
line
we're
as
gonna
well.
do it.
Great.
But the
Well,
good news is we're here in Smithfield.
We're thrilled.
So
We're thrilled. We're thrilled. And Jim, I really thank you for taking time today, and I hope the viewers that this was helpful as far as educating them on some of the projects that are happening and how they're anticipated to come to fruition, and how long some of them have taken, and your investment into the area as well.
Absolutely.
So
Well, I've
again, Jim,
enjoyed it.
thank you very much for being here with us.
Thank you for your support over the years, too.
Thank you. Thank you. And that's it for the Legislative Report. I'm State Representative Rosemary Brown. If you have any questions regarding this show or any other state-related matters, please feel free to contact my office. Thank you.